What's going on, everybody? Happy Tuesday. Today's episode, we're going to start off with a tribute to this man, number 81, the original 81, and the greatest player to ever wear number 81, the Terrell Eldorado Owens. T.O., right? So essentially, T.O. was one of the most mercurial receivers and one of the most dominant receivers of his era. And so, for me personally, obviously, being able to watch T.O., during his days with Niners, as a kid, then going to Philadelphia and making a Super Bowl run, playing, with his injury. I mean, on basically playing on one leg, through Super Bowl 39, and basically just kind of, solidifying, himself as a top receiver by going by ending his career, well, not necessarily ending his career, but obviously going to Dallas and playing with Dallas, and now most recently playing in FCF, right? The Infant Control Football Indoor League, to really just prove, how dominant he is. I mean, it's just remarkable to me. This is episode 96. That was the year Terrell Owens was drafted, 96 draft. There's a lot of other great receivers such as Marvin Harrison, others, Musa Muhammad and others who were drafted that same year as T.O. But I mean, T.O. obviously, my opinion, was the best receiver of that draft class for many reasons. So, obviously, he went to University of Tennessee Chattanooga. He was a two-sport athlete. He played basketball and he was also a football player. Dominated football. He got drafted in the 96 draft by the 49ers, Steve Mariucci team. And essentially from there, then, he just burst onto the scene in 96, 97, 98, made some serious headwaves. And we're actually going to go into, when we get to the episode, we'll talk about this play right here, the catch two, during the 98, 99 NFL playoffs, from which T.O. was the sole kind of, executor of, right? The sole, kind of the main kind of, response, the main, I guess you could say the main player responsible for that play, right? So essentially, I think with T.O., a lot of the issues came with the off the field issues. Obviously, not necessarily, he didn't really get too much legal trouble, but it was just, the fact he had loud personality, but the locker room presence and kind of, guys like Jeff Garcia, where he basically, accused Jeff Garcia of being homosexual, Donovan McNabb feud, right? Which led to him basically getting booed off the Eagles. The Eagles never, reached that same level of dominance again, after T.O. was traded, to the Cowboys. And then essentially when he went to Dallas, he actually had a pretty good run there, but the Cowboys just couldn't perform. So, T.O., 15,900, how many yards? 150, was it 153 or 154? Around there, touchdowns, right? I mean, it's remarkable, how dominant he was in a 15-year NFL career. And to be able to do it even now, right? I mean, it's just, for me, I know one of my guests on the show whose episode is coming up, Jason Wilson, shout out Jason if you're watching this, J Will. He basically, was asking me, if I ever consider, coming out of retirement playing again. I'm like, yeah, but not really, because I can't really play anymore with my injuries and little, but essentially, and obviously football is young man's game, but to consider, guys like T.O. and another guy who's on their show, Mike Hollis, kicker, who came out of retirement 20 years and started playing. And T.O. basically just playing, at the age of, almost 49, is it, right? He's going to be 49 in December. He's 48 right now. And then he's still playing in the Fan Control Football League, with professional athletes. It's remarkable, it's remarkable. I think T.O.'s legacy, this is kind of the real question, right? Obviously, T.O. in San Francisco, he was the engineer of the catch two. He was a sole kind of, when the Niners played the Giants in that comeback game in 2002, one of the greatest comebacks in NFL playoff history. The Super Bowl 39, that performance, where he basically was playing on one leg and, he was the only guy Donovan could throw to during that game, which is remarkable again against the Dynasty Patriots, even of that era. And then obviously going to Dallas and, helping the Dallas Cowboys reach number 1 seed 2007. And then ultimately, ending his career in Cincinnati, or Buffalo, Cincinnati, before, retiring. So I guess before getting his last shot with the Seahawks 2012, and then calling it a career in the NFL, but then coming back in 2017. And he still played Austin Wranglers in the Indoor Football League in 2012. and now he's still playing, obviously in the Fantasy Football League, and it's amazing. It's really amazing, you know. And obviously, for me, I mean, I look at Teal's legacy as just one of a receiver. He set numerous records when he was playing. He set the single game receptions record, which was later broken by Brandon Marshall. 9 years later, and Teal commended Brandon Marshall, right? He said, there couldn't be a better guy to get the award. No one more hardworking, right? So I think ultimately, I think Teal's legacy is one to really just of the top, in my opinion, the top receiver of all time in NFL history. And the fact that he's able to continue playing, in the indoor game, just really solidifies him, even further. For me, obviously playing, arena semi-pro, it's like, for me to see a guy at that level, a guy of TO stature coming into the indoor game and still being able to play and doing it at an advanced age, it's for others, it may say like, oh, he needs money, right? Because the fact that, he the $49 million that he made throughout his NFL career, or how many million, I think, sorry, $70 million he made in his NFL career. A lot of pundits will say, oh, he wasn't able to manage that money effectively enough to where, now he has to play, to keep afloat, right? And this guy right here, Manning, Peyton, at ESPYs back in 2017, 2017, right? Yeah, 2017 ESPYs basically stated that, one of the jokes he had during his hosting ceremony was that, oh, T.O. works at the Golden Corrals. But anyways, no, I think T.O., I mean, obviously one of the greatest receivers ever, one of the baddest motherfuckers to play the game of football. If anyone's a fan of football, T.O., get your popcorn ready, right? You gotta be a fan of that. I think for me, obviously as a fan, I think T.O. just, number 81 was unstoppable. And ultimately, depending on who you are, as a fan, you may like him, you may hate him. Actually, there might not even be a like. There might just be a love and a hate. He's that polarizing of a figure, So a lot of Eagles fans feel that T.O. was a cancer, during that time. A lot of Niners fans, we actually respect T.O. for what he was able to do for our team because he was there for 8 years, not just like 2 or 3 seasons, like with the Eagles. So, but if I was an Eagles fan, I would love T.O. because he was responsible for helping our team reach a Super Bowl. So ultimately, I think T.O.'s legacy is complicated, right? Because the fact he had so many on the field / off the field like issues, but it was mainly on the field, like with his teammates. And ultimately, I think and obviously his spending habits off the field, his luxurious lifestyle, and his egregious spending habits, right? Those kind of dropped him down. But as an athlete, just as strictly as an athlete, as a pure athlete, I think T.O. is obviously one of the greatest ever. So. I mean, I enjoyed, obviously, we'll get into more of the kind of play, the catch too, in a later episode coming up. But ultimately, I think, T.O. was responsible for some of the greatest memories and some of the greatest moments in NFL history. I still don't put him above Randy Moss, only because the reason that Randy Moss was just a little bit more dominant during his era. Obviously it depends. Shannon Sharp and others still say, Terrell Owens, T.O., he was able to get more involved in the offense. He was able to catch any ball. He could go up the middle and he could block. He was a super blocker, right, because of his body. Randy obviously didn't have the same body. He was more of a lanky type of frame. And, Randy was able to leverage his natural athleticism instead of trying to, actually make plays, outside of, just being a vertical threat, And I mean, for me, I think ultimately, it depends on who you are. But I think, Randy was able to just do a little bit more, with what he was given in Minnesota. And, obviously, Randy was able to make 2 Super Bowls. Granted, he was the second Super Bowl. He was a contributor, but he wasn't like I talked about in the tribute episode of Randy, I think 12 episodes ago. Randy was able to be effective, right, on that last Super Bowl run, 2012 run. This run right here, right, the 2012 Niners, right. He was able to be effective on that run, but he wasn't necessarily he was not a key contributor. He wasn't Michael Crabtree, right? But he was needed, to get the pressure off. Right? He helped get the pressure off Crabtree, Delaney, Vernon, Davis, and all those guys. But I think Randy's peak was higher than T.O.'s peak, right? But, I think ultimately T.O., as a receiver, and someone else actually told me this the other day. He basically stated that, your teams now draft T.O. receivers. They don't try to draft Moss receivers because now the offense is being RPO heavy and, focusing on run and run blitz, run schemes, right? Essentially, you want to have a receiver who can block because it's more valuable than receiver catch. That's why T.O. is able to do so well in the indoor game because you need bigger, stronger physical receivers, to block in indoor. Smaller receivers, guys like me, you can use them, for other types of, kind of packages. But blocking as well. You need to block regardless of how big or small you are. But T.O. obviously was great for multiple reasons. So this is my take on T.O. I think his legacy was great. I think he's the number 3 receiver of all time. Other people have him as number 2. I put him at number 3. Let me know what you guys think. And, obviously, all T.O. fans out there, let's get our popcorn ready because, I've been watching the Fan Control Football League and I've been seeing some of his highlights. And it's pretty, he has some pretty good moments. It's just still remarkable at his age to still be playing. So let me know what you guys think. Hope you enjoyed this episode. God bless.